We move on to our next panel, which is banking in a digital state. I have the pleasure of welcoming our panelists, Ms. Reema Nanavati, Executive Director from Seva. We are joined by Mr. T.R. Venkateswaran, Chief Information Security Officer for Punjab National Bank, Mr. K. Surya Narayanan, Chief Information Security Officer from the Central Bank of India, Mr. K. Mahindra Reddy, Chief Information Security Officer, Union Bank of India, Mr. Saravanan S., Additional General Manager IT, the Karur Vyasya Bank Limited. It's easy to see that digital banking and digital state are tied up. And this bond has actually strengthened further during COVID. And as the first panel also mentioned that, it has given us a tremendous amount of opportunities. And given this, there is a need to examine how bankers see digital banking shape up in 2021-25 to keep in step with the rise of the digital state. So there are three questions in front of us. What would be the newer compliances and scaling issues? And where will the disruptions come from? And Reema-ji, particularly for you, are there any exclusion issues and how to address those gaps? When I come back to you, I will ask you that question. So let me first move out and invite Mr. Venkateswaran, CISO from Punjab National Bank.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you, Scotch, for giving us an opportunity to speak on this topic. We expect that the Personal Data Protection Bill, which when enacted with its various provisions, will decide the way forward in respect of the digital banking and other aspects of e-commerce in future. The bill has various provisions like defining the data principle and their rights, the setup of data fiduciaries and their roles and responsibilities, the office of the data controller, and the adjudicating authority, which are very important. There is going to be a whole ecosystem which will get formed and aligned once the bill is enacted. Digital banking has already increased leaps and bounds with the advent of COVID. The launch of RuPay card has given a fillip to extending the use of cards. However, we foresee that the usage of cards will slowly and gradually come down with the growth of cardless transactions through ATMs and bulk note acceptors. The use of robotic process automation, artificial intelligence, and machine learning will be more pronounced in the banking sector in India. The pandemic situation and the restrictions on the mobility of staff due to travel restrictions are enablers for the strong adoption of the robotic process automation. Robotic process automation enables automation of standard, repetitive, voluminous manual tasks which are monotonous. The standard tasks that are done hitherto manually are defined in prescribed steps and automated so that the manual dependency is reduced. The software robots can perform the tasks round the clock without need for tea break, lunchtime, sleep, leave, etc. The software robots can be configured to start the work at a particular time without any dependence on manpower. Already, software robots are in use in some of the banks in the area of reconciliation, call ticket allocation, call center on a trial and pilot basis, and these have been successful. Robotic process automation benefits in the form of improved process efficiencies, reduction in turnaround time, improved compliances, and reduced cost of operations. See, earlier Dr. Chandrasekhar also spoke about this, that people were thinking that the automation will reduce the staff. That is not going to be. It will only relocate or reorient the staff to do more analytical tasks when compared to monotonous tasks. So things which can be done manually, which are monotonous, that can be taken over by the machines, and the staff can be oriented towards more analytical thinking and analytical tasks. Banks are already using chatbots to address the routine customer queries. There will be more use of robots in branches in the task relating to guiding the customer and responding to customer inquiries on standard aspects. The size of the bank branches will decrease due to the reduced footfall of the customers, since digital mode is being used besides the doorstep banking facilities and shifting of the activities to back offices. We foresee consolidation of branches to increase the cost efficiencies and reduce the cost of operations. While private sector banks have adopted cloud infrastructure reasonably, still there is reluctance on the part of the public sector banks in moving to public cloud. At present, cloud is adopted for non-critical systems like chatbot, email, HRMS, feeds, obtaining threat advisories, etc. Due to the regulatory compliance requirements and the lack of understanding of the cloud security features and functionalities, there has been slow adoption of cloud in the banking sector. With the thrust on use of local data centers, availability of cloud service providers, and the improved security and bandwidth, we see more adoption in cloud in the near future. Data analytics is a very important area where the banks will be focusing in the era of digital banking. It will provide more insights about the behavior pattern of the customers and help in positioning suitable products and services to meet the expectation of the customers. With the increase in digital transactions, there has been a huge increase in the cyber frauds. Innocent customers who are ignorant are getting duped by fraudsters using social engineering techniques, phishing, smishing, and whaling. Though the coordination between the banks and the law enforcing agencies like police have increased, it has not kept pace with the growth of the electronic and e-commerce frauds. We hope that the SICOD and FinCod projects of the Government of India will help in increased coordination between banks and the law enforcing agencies, enabling catching the culprits and punishing them besides recovering the funds of the victim customers. Fraud risk management systems with multiple channel fraud detection capabilities, early warning systems, online loan processing and loan management system, document management systems have become must-have applications. After the advent of COVID pandemic, many of the private organizations have closed down their rented premises and have adopted a full work from home setup. There has been increased need for the banks to adopt work from home technologies like virtual private network with dual factor authentication, privileged identity management solutions, virtual desktop interface, etc., both for its employees and the service providers. With more focus on Make in India and the Atmanirbhar Bharat, we foresee more usage of the Made in India products and solutions in the banking industry. With increased experience and usage of these solutions, which will improve the functionalities available due to demand, we foresee increased export of banking software solutions. The software and cybersecurity professionals in India will be on demand. The size of the data centers in banks is likely to reduce due to the stronger adoption of the hyper-converged infrastructure. The Windows and Linux physical servers are expected to be phased out gradually, moving the applications to virtualized environment. Hitherto, most of the peripheral applications in the BFSI sector recently have been developed on the x86 platforms, thereby enabling them to be cloud-ready with their OS platforms as Windows and Linux. The OEMs of the RISC-based operating systems like Solaris, AIX, HPUX are no longer investing in the respective technologies and have already started adopting x86 platforms for the environment of their operating systems. We expect the major banking software solution providers like Infosys and TCS to adopt x86 as their platform and come out with a roadmap of migration of their core banking solutions architecture to x86. Technologies like software-defined wide area network is likely to replace the hitherto dependence on dedicated routers being used in branches of banks for connectivity. These technologies bring in convergence of network, software, and
there are two takeaways from what you are talking about. That as far as compliances are concerned, the banking industry is going to benefit from the PDP bill, which is what you said, and the robotics automation is the new technologies, which is what is going to enormously come into banking and going to change the way banking is done today, and also at the same time introduce a whole lot of securities into the system. I'll come back to you on this, asking for more. Let me move over to Mr. Surya Narayanan from Central Bank of India. As to what's your understanding and what's your take on the new compliances as well as the new disruptions, as to where are they going to come from?
Yeah, thank you, sir. A very good morning to all of you. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak at this occasion. Regarding this digital India is a reality now. So, though we came a long way in the digital India journey, and the road ahead is also a big journey we have to go. And digital India initiatives have affected all the sections of the society, whether it is education, healthcare, and e-governance, and banking being one of the pioneer in adopting technology and digitalization is benefited a lot in this digital India initiatives. See, now customers have all the facilities of the bank at their fingertips. Using mobile, they can transact all the banking business. So this is a development in India during the last maybe 5 to 10 years, and it will continue. And using this Aadhaar is like the biggest social security platform in the world. That is a consideration. So when we talk about Aadhaar, see, now there are different identity mechanisms in India. See, but can we have the same Aadhaar can be extended to all these? Why? See, when we talk about this like PAN number, when we talk about the driving license, all are like electoral identity. So why we can integrate all these systems together, and one identity, one person means one identity, because it is all about data. So we can think of this one in the next maybe coming days. So one identity, only thing is because Aadhaar is a unique identity, it's available for every citizen of India. Then I think there is a need for different identity and mechanisms. And coming to the cloud adoption in banks, especially for digital initiatives, as my previous speaker, Mr. Venkatesan told that, see, in public sector banks, the adoption is very low. I agree fully with that, because private public, it is not about the security and all, because security, now nobody will say that the cloud is not secure, because it is equally secured as our own data center is. Whatever security mechanism we are adopted for our in-house data center, we can extend to we are availing that from the cloud service provider also. So in the coming days, definitely most of the banks, or for the most of the applications, they will adopt cloud. And when we talk about this Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative and all, so now the most of the cloud service providers, okay, why can we think of a banking cloud, an Indian cloud? Because banking is a critical business area, and it is so big that we can think of especially a banking cloud in India itself. So, and it will be an initiative to Atmanirbhar Bharat also. So I propose to have like a banking cloud, so that all banks can member of that cloud. So, and Digital India, banks, even our bank, for that all public sector banks have benefited a lot. And like these UPI transactions and all, now more than say 60% of the banking transactions are using through online. And the acceptance of cash, usage of cash will be reduced in future, because when we say about the usage of ATM cards and all, there is no need of an ATM card at all, because when we using some online transaction, we are not using the card, we are using only the card details. So for withdrawing from ATM also, there is no need of any cards. So we can save a lot in this area, like printing of currency also. The country will benefit a lot in adopting digitalization. That is my input.
Excellent. Thank you so much. May I now invite Mr. Mahindra Reddy from Union Bank of India. Mr. Reddy.
Yeah, good morning to all. So it's really a great honor to be part of this COST summit. And in fact, I would like to, before I start, I would like to congratulate Dr. Guru Sharan and Dr. Mr. Samir, that for their efforts, continuous efforts to bring everyone on a digital platform. So this is today we look at the entire country. I think it is on a single platform, which we are able to see here. So this is a great achievement. So it's in a small term I want to use, the way we project Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas. Definitely digital has got a Vishwas now. The digital trust, the digital trust is very, very important factor to drive any digital state or digital bank and anything. So because the is the end user, and his experience. If banks are meeting, definitely digital growth will be exponential. Today, after this pandemic situation, the digital growth has gone. It has grown exponentially. I can say, which we never seen in the last few decades, where we are saying that digital India, digital hum. But today, it's a truly digital. Every corner, we find that people are using the QR codes. Everywhere, I mean, people are not demanding the cash. They are not saying that you pay cash, and they are saying that it is your choice. If you want to give in, but the most preferential to the user is that digital cash. So that is the revolution, that is the change, that is the transformation which has happened, and definitely the Scotch has the way the platform they are giving to all the downstream. I've been in all sectors. I think it's amazing, and I am really feeling it's a great privilege to me to be part of such discussions. And being a banker, being a financial part of the financial institution, I also take a pride that if such collaboration happens, definitely this digital growth will take it to a next level, and India will become one of the front runner in the digital. Today we are discussing in the future state of digital is Asia is going to take over the entire world. So in the Asia, India, I still believe the level of the technology which has come today, it may be the UPI or IMPS, or we are moving towards cross-border transactions and all. I think India will be doing the amazing in the technology adoptions, and the way the technology adoption is going on, this emerging technologies also, and this 5G technology which is also going to come. I think India will be the number one. I think the Scotch will maybe the next meeting. I think we will do in a different form altogether. What I feel, I mean, that is the pace, that is the speed, and that is the scale, and that is the skill. I think these are the factors which really, I mean, important for any growth, because unless you have a scalability is required, and skill is required, and the speed is also required. If you are meeting these three parameters, I think definitely this security, your business, your service, customer service, everything will be aligned together. So yes, many of us have spoken that this digital state is nothing but the new technologies, how we are going to use, and how we are going to deliver the change of behavior of the customer. That is the more essential, because their stickiness to the banking product or banking service is more essential than delivering a product of bank's choice. There is no bank's choice today. It is choice of the customer. How we can provide them a better service on the fly. It's not, they should not come to the branch. They should, while on walking, if you can provide, like we talk about open banking, or the kind of the cloud banking or API banking, whatever we give a terminology, the bank should, now I should not find a name anywhere, anytime, anyhow bank. I can say walk the banking. I mean, the moment that people keep on moving, they can do the all kind of banking needs they should get. So that is only possible in this digital, platforms, which is regard. Now I think the next the level of revolution which is coming is called platformification. So this platformification, it creates a layer in between the banks, in between the merchants, and customers, so that the merchant or the customer will get every facility on the fly. I think there is no need that the bank has to go for a very, the standard product. The technology itself will take this artificial intelligence, robotic process automation, distributed ledger technology, and we also go natural language processing, where India is really need of the hour, because the 5G technology is coming. Definitely this language is a barrier in our country. if the language can be translated, if I am talking to English, if this the English can be translated into multiple language, I think entire 1.3 billion people can understand what I mean to talk. I think this 5G is going to take that stage now. So hopefully, I think Scotch is doing a very, great job. I think we are all associated. We will give all kind of support to this journey. Yes, banks have got that maturity and experience in this digital journey, and we are the front runners now to lead the digital. To lead everything digital now. So while coming into office, going out of the office, everything. Now there is nothing else in the bank today. With the whole discussions is happening either digitization or digitalization. So this is the two words which we are doing. Definitely this digital state and digital banking, if they club together, it will create a great link to the customers, and it will be a successful story. I think the next version of this Scotch probably will come into the different form altogether, I believe, because the kind of interaction, because they are going to happen, I think it will happen in a different form altogether. So this is all about from my side, sir. So thank you for giving the opportunity, Dr. Bhushan Shah, and wish you all the best.
Mr. Reddy, I want to ask you this question about the compliances, because that's something which is what, Mr. Venkateswaran also touched upon. So how do you see, the compliance issues and the scaling issues will come along as we adopt, advanced levels of technology?
Yes, see, every technology has their own intrinsic risk, because it's as good as if I will do it, if I try it. It's very simple. So something, if you try it, then it's the journey. It's like a journey. It's not an end of the thing. Compliance is a progressive. It's a continual process. Continually, you should come out with the framework, and you should come out with the best practices. And it is when you move to the journey, when you learn the things, definitely the compliance will also take a, equally it will take a place to drive your business. So compliance is important, but the way we are moving, if you are fearing that, yeah, the compliance is my first priority, probably we lose the track. I think the digital journey should be very fast. So it should be through a learning process. I think compliance is not a yardstick to measure that, kind of, yes, there is a security concerns are there, as well as, those things will gradually it comes. It's a continuous improvement. The way you want to enforce those kind of things, so it happens to the through a kind of a framework, through a learning, through best practices. So it is evolving. I think the space is evolving very fast. So similarly, these compliance issues also evolve. And definitely this security, the concerns, it will remain intact to the level. But at the same time, this journey should not be stopped due to some of the compliance issues. So compliance, it can be built on top of, once you use it, definitely that compliance will carry on that. So that is what I am looking at, because I always believe that if you try something, then only you will feel that you are doing something. So it is as good as, I will quote one more example. Suppose I will give a broccoli to you. Everyone knows that broccoli is good for health, but by seeing that, you will see that I will not taste it, and you have a fear not to taste it, then you are losing the opportunity of that. So digital journey is also like that. It's a kind of, opportunity as well as the threat. But we have to look forward to the opportunity and encase that and maintaining the certain compliances, baseline compliances. And when you do a journey, then definitely that maturity will come, and it will take your whatever you are aiming for 100% compliance on, it will happen. So that is what my perspective towards looking at this digital journey. And I look for, as a CISO, I look forward that let us capitalize the opportunities first, then look for the threats are there. Yes, agreed. But the threats can also be balanced. That there are many ways which through framework, policies, procedures, people, and a lot of alignment is required. So those things will happen gradually. So this is my, sir, from my side.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I now invite Mr. Sarvanan, Additional General Manager IT from Karur Vyasya Bank.
Yeah, very good morning, Mr. Samir and Dr. Gulsharan and my fellow panelists. And I seem to be an odd man out in this panel because rest of the three are from as a capacity as CISO. And I'm from the IT background, normally which we used to have a fight between these two areas, IT and the compliance. Yeah, sir, first of all, let me thank for getting us an opportunity to showcase the order of merit that has been given to the bank, as well as to be a part of this panel and to have a discussion on the banking in the digital mode. It is one of the apt title which has been chosen, sir. And now the customers, see, it is not the choice of the banks to deliver the services to the customers in the way they want. The situation has got changed. Now the customers started expecting from the banks, and customers now expect the banks to maximize the digital interactions and to come up with the digital alternatives in their day-to-day banking needs. And they are now open up to complete any transaction just by opening a new app. This is what the trend goes. And the traditional banks are being challenged by the new age on the digital only banks because they solely rely on the technology. And whenever we talk about the new initiatives, it is the order of the day for the banks to look on the cost perspective, which is again and again comes into the picture. And in the first point on the panel is that how bankers see the digital banking shape up in the upcoming years, 21 to 25. So already banks are into the digital age, and the customers are being offered with various digital solutions, right from the mobile application, internet applications, and Mr. Venkateshwaran has quoted all the methods of payments, which Mr. Mahendra Reddy also has quoted. The payment mechanism has come in a variety of ways. That is the point to be noted. And the mode which is convenient to the customers is being chosen them, on their own, and they do the transactions in the preferred mode. And it is the duty of the banks to offer all the services which the customer wants. And in order to shape up the digital in the banking scenario, obviously a four-pillar strategy has to be followed, sir, which is the need of the hour, of which the first is the omni-channel experience that need to be given to the customers. So omni-channel is nothing but, see, we are offering so many, every services into different modes, as I quoted earlier. And we need to give a seamless experience for a customer for logging in from one channel and then doing some transaction, closing that and opening up other channel and complete the transaction. That's what we feel as an omni-channel experience, which we need to take up and every bank has started offering to do. And second comes the modular banking. See, say for example, the Facebooks and Ubers, they introduce a lot many new options within their apps in a very short span of time. And this may not be the case for the banks because we need to do all sort of, basically we need to ensure the functionality is being met out, then rigorous testing has to be taken, then we ensure the compliance on top of it is there, and then only the product can be rolled out. So this is a time-consuming activity for the banks, but still people have started doing that. Then the third pillar is the open banking system, which is called as the API-based banking, which every bank has started doing now. So opening up the APIs given to the other parties, including the competitors, right? Unprecedented access to the bank's data. And in fact, customers' demands have changed, however. So failing to take an open banking and properly will lead to the disintermediation anyway. But banks must open up my point is that banks must open up their APIs, but in order to get benefited out of the data available out of the bank as well as the data available within the bank. And this gives a clear demarcation between the closed banking and the open banking. So closed banking is always an asset ownership mode, and it is the work is localized and mass production will be there and scarcity of control. That's the point to be noted. Whereas in the open banking system, the connection to the access is very much available, and the work is getting distributed, and the shared value as well as abundant management is available for this method. And the fourth pillar is on the smart banking. Obviously, every digital platform gives up a smart banking solution. And smart banking is nothing but the ease of convenience which is being given to the customer for the use of operations. Right. This is on the shaping up of the digital banking in the upcoming years. And on the exclusions front, I don't see any exclusions as such, because each and every area is being tracked into it. Each and every area is being tracked into it. So I don't find any exclusions into it. And the next point is on the newer compliance as well as the scaling issues. In fact, many of the customers agree that the customers will rely on the social medias as they are the primary method of communication between their colleagues or friends as well as with the banks. In fact, for banks, this can be their way to introduce the social media strategy by highlighting how it streamlines and simplifies the communications with their customers. But we need to be very careful enough in handling the social media, because securing the social media channels should be on the topmost priority of a bank. All communication should go.
Allow me to interrupt you at this moment.
Please, please.
Let me invite Reema ji, because she has to leave in another 5-7 minutes. And on the exclusion issue, which is what you were trying to address, I think let me ask her that question that, given the current state of affairs and the digital India and the digital banking that we talk about. So what are the, suspected or, the threats to the inclusion, and what could be the exclusion issues? Reema ji, over to you.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate for bringing me here. I think I bring the voices of the women who are at the very, very base of the pyramid, but still they are the wheels of the pyramid as well. I think our experience has been that when you put technology into the hands of the women who are workers, they know how best to use it to their advantage. So talking about exclusion, we have self-help groups, and the women were collecting the savings, and then they had to, go a few 100 kilometers to deposit in the bank branch. And then she had to keep the records manually. So they themselves were asking that, can there not be some better way of how can they reduce this paperwork? And that's how we brought a digital application. So that has saved time, but also cost. But I think internet connectivity is a big issue. So women sometimes have to climb on the rooftop so that, she's able to access the application. Sometimes she has to leave the village and come to the highway or on the main road so that she's able to use the application. So I think one has to look at that. I was also listening to Mr. Venkateshwaran or Suryanarayanji. One of them said about the RuPay card. And I think definitely RuPay card can make a huge difference that, women can easily either withdraw or, but I think how do you disseminate those RuPay cards? And I think that's where, how can banking, digital technology, banking and livelihoods can be integrated? So banking correspondence, e-Sakhis is one of the ways. But, if we can have merchants, more and more merchants, that will facilitate both inclusion as well as it will generate more and more livelihood opportunities. So I think mobile wallets, digital wallets are the need of an hour. We definitely experienced that during the COVID time, that, money was transferred into everybody's accounts, whether it was for relief or Jan Dhan, whatever. How can they access it from the banks? And that's where the mobile wallets, women who had the mobile wallets, they became, the savior for the rest of the community. So I think that's a major thing that we have to look at, that how can the banking sector look at mobile wallets RuPay cards, Aadhaar-enabled, digital payment systems, and livelihoods. How can all that be integrated? And that's where, organizations like ours, partnership with them, can provide you with a lot of research and data on the ground as well. My last point is that Mr. Sarvanaman was talking about analytics, and Mr. Mahendra Reddy was also talking that the free time, how can that be used for analytics? But I think, how do you empower the women to make it more inclusive? And how can that data be passed on to them? So that is what my second point is, that one has to look at how can the data be passed on to the women, and how can we therefore make machine learning or AI or robotics, everything bottom up. So if how do you make your customer, how do you make this technology customer centric, and not that somebody else designs these technologies, these applications, and then everybody has to adapt it. But how do you make the customer in the center? When I say customer, I only talk about the poor. And how do you keep, because today, for them, only mobile wallets will make sense. We can't have branches in each and every village, or we will not be able to install ATM machines in each and every village. So in order to make banking more inclusive, what kind of technology one should look at? So I think that's the challenge ahead of us. And we would be more than happy to have a detailed discussion, Dr. Gurcharan ji, whenever you think whoever is the right kind of a partner. We have our own Seva Bank, which also has its own UPI and Aadhaar-enabled systems. We disseminate the RuPay cards as well. So our bank is working on data analytics and everything. So thank you so much, Dr. Gurcharan ji. It's real honor and privilege to be in the midst of hardcore bankers. We have a bank, but I'm not a banker myself. It's again been a great honor and privilege to receive the award as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. And I know that, when it comes to banking, it has to be democratized all across, right from top to bottom. Right at the bottom of the pyramid are those people who perhaps need it the most. And banking is something which is going to give them the power to transact. So economic enablement and economic empowerment, comes alongside. So thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us, Reema ji, for joining us on this panel. I know you have another meeting lined up and you have been waiting for that. So my gratitude to you. Thank you so much.